Assalamu alaikum, everybody. May peace be upon you, and welcome back to Dean Friends. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about Atheist Examined. We're going to have a whole playlist on atheism and all its claims. We will go through it honestly and have rebuttals. So this is the first episode. It's going to be called Why Reason Points Beyond Matter. So why is there anything at all? Okay, why do we live in a universe with rules we can discover, with minds that can think, and with a deep sense that some things are really right and really wrong? In this series, I'm going to just test ideas fairly. I'll say the claim clearly, present the strongest atheist version I can, and then test it with simple logic and what we actually know about the world. The goal isn't to win an argument, it's just to see and view and explain reality better. Atheism or theism, right? That's the age-old question, right? So first, quick map in plain language we would have to go through, which is atheism says there is no God, right? Reality is only matter and energy following blind rules, right? Impersonal rules. Theism says that there is a mind behind reality. That's what we call God, right? Especially in the Islamic point of view, a God is just an entity that exists beyond time and space. He is not composed of parts. He is independent. He is one, and he is unlike anything we can think of. He's outside of our perception, our human perception, right? He's not a man. He's not a woman. It's an entity that is independent and who exists on his own. And he's the source of the universe. That's what we call God. It's order and it's real moral truth that he puts in us to guide us. So this is not science versus religion. It's worldview versus worldview. So the atheism worldview versus the theism worldview. Both make big claims about each other, but both need reasons, right? It's only recently that the atheism worldview has gotten so much traction, and that's because I believe because of secularism and because of a rise of this Western ideology in different nations and especially the West, right? Especially the children that's growing up. They are growing up with atheism, right? They are growing up with this worldview, and they don't really understand the God worldview or think that it is silly or, not the best ideology in terms of facts and evidence, right? But I'm here to prove that wrong and to look a little bit deeper into both ideologies and to see which one has more evidence. So let's begin with the most basic question there is, right? Why is there something rather than nothing? A helpful word here is contingent, okay? It just means borrowed existence, something that exists but didn't have to. When we look around, everything seems borrowed to us, right? Starting from people we are, right? We require food, we require certain laws, we require physics, right? We're made up of atoms, right? We're dependent, all the way to the stars, all the way to the sun, the moon. These are dependent things, and they look dependent because they are dependent, right? Stars come and go, people live and die, even the universe, right? On leading models, looks like something that could have failed to exist. So think of a row of dominoes, right? We're just going to keep giving analogies in this video just to grasp the basics. Each domino falls because another one hit it. But dominoes hold up other dominoes, right? A domino doesn't hold up other dominoes, right? A table holds all the dominoes up. If you keep saying that another domino, and then another domino, then it would never reach the table, right? You haven't explained what's really supporting the line. Or imagine a library where every single book is borrowed from someone else, right? If absolutely every book is borrowed, then no one actually owns a book and the library disappears. So it's this idea of dependent contingent things that are in an endless cycle. That can't happen because that is the fallacy of infinite regress, which is no credible scientist, no philosopher has ever deemed that credible, and that is the reason why it's a fallacy in the first place, right? So yeah, like I said, if every book is borrowed, then no one actually owns a book, and then the library disappears. At some point, you would need an owner. In the same way, a world full of borrowed things points beyond itself to something not borrowed, to a reality that exists on its own, that doesn't depend on anything else, right? You need that independent thing to start that dependent chain. Otherwise, you and me, we wouldn't exist right now, right? If it didn't have an end, if it didn't have that independent source that started everything. And theism says that reality is God. So, to a reality that exists on its own, that doesn't depend on anything else, that's what we call. So, next question would be, did the universe begin? Common sense tells us that things begin, right? Things have a start and an end. There's also a simple problem with an endless actual past, right? You can't finish an infinite number of days to arrive at today. On top of that, the universe we observe is expanding and running down, which is also mentioned in the Quran. Subhanallah. Running down is what physicists call entropy. It just means that usable energy spreads out and order tends to decline, right? So here's another analogy for that. It would be a tidy room just becomes messy unless someone keeps tidying, right? A hot cup of tea goes cold if you leave it, right? This constant running down points to a start, a moment when the system wasn't already partway spent. If space, time, and matter really began, they didn't cause themselves, right? A cause can't act before it exists. So the cause of the universe must be beyond space, beyond time, and beyond matter. Right away, we're looking past the physical world for the reason the physical world is here. So yeah, now you may have heard the phrase, physics shows something can come from nothing, right? That sentence turns on the word nothing. In many physics papers, nothing doesn't mean the total absence of anything. It often means a quantum vacuum, a lowest energy state that still has fields rules, and structure. That's not nothing. That's a kind of something still. Real nothing means that there is no space, there is no time, there is no fields, there's no rules, there's no potential at all. And that nothing does nothing. And if there had been absolutely nothing, then there would still be nothing. But there is something. So nothing did it isn't an option, right? So what about the universe that we do have? Why does it look so precisely set up for life? This is the fine-tuning question that we're going to go into in another video. The basic numbers of physics, strengths of forces, particle masses, the initial conditions sit in tiny life-friendly ranges, right? This change of many of them, just a little, if you change just a little bit, and you get a dead universe, no stable stars, no chemistry, no life. Picture a control panel, right? Covered in dials. For life to exist, each dial has to land in a very thin green zone. Our universe looks as if all those dials are all in the green zone at the same time. That's how precise it is. That is what we call fine-tuning of life. Then people also try 3 other main explanations, which is one is necessity. Maybe the numbers had to be this way. But we have no good reason to think that, because and another reason is chance, right? We just got lucky. But the odds are so extreme that we're here to notice it. Doesn't really explain why the setup allows noticing in the first place. The third is the multiverse, countless universes, most dead, a few unlucky, few lucky, right? But a multiverse needs a universe maker with the right rules to produce many universes at all. So fine-tuning question just moves up a level. The simple fit is design. The dials look set on purpose, right? Now consider life. Life runs on information, right? DNA, it's not just chemicals, it carries specified information, not random letters, but useful instructions arranged in the right order to do real jobs. Chemistry can give you letters like, A, C, G, T, but life needs recipes, long, precise sentences that build working proteins at the right time and place. And in our everyday experience, large amounts of new functional information come from minds, books, software, blueprints. It's reasonable to infer that the origin of biological information points to intelligence. Notice what I'm not doing here. I'm not saying we don't know X, therefore God. That would be a God of the gaps move, right? I'm looking at what we do know. We know we live in a world of borrowed, contingent things, dependent things. We have strong reasons to think that the universe began, right? We can see the fine-tuning of the physical constants, right? We can see that life depends on real information, like a cookbook, rather than a spill of letters. Theism gives one simple foundation that makes sense of all of this at once, right? It's like, who started that Big Bang, right? We understand that the Big Bang is what created the universe, but who had the power, who had the ability to create the Big Bang in the first place, right? That's what we're asking. It doesn't explain less, it explains more. That's what theism is. So here is the picture we've drawn, right? Dominoes don't hold up other dominoes, right? There has to be an end, there has to be a table. Our universe began, nothing can't make something. The dials of physics sit in life's green zone. DNA reads like instructions. The simple, powerful explanations tying these lines together is that there is a mind behind reality, God. That God is all-powerful, all-merciful, has the ability to create a universe, has the ability to create love, justice, and that's why he is the most justice, the most just, the most loving. And if you follow the logic to a reality that starts the chain of dependencies, independent, eternal, and with nothing like it, that is exactly how the Quran defines God. Surah Al-Ikhlas says, He is Allah, one. Allah, the self-sufficient refuge. He neither begets nor is born, and there is none comparable to him. The Quran also says He is the first and the last, before and after all things. That's the destination this line of reasoning points to. So if this gave you a clear map, share it with someone who's honestly searching, and join me for that next episode where we're gonna talk about why there is something rather than nothing, get more in depth with that. This whole playlist is gonna be for this new generation that are growing up as atheists and to challenge what atheists are thinking, because when there's atheism, especially among children, then morality tends to get skewed in society, and I think we need to go deeper and see this more logically, since we live in a more secularist society, right, where all we can think of is how logic conflates with our worldview and how logic fits in with our worldview. So let's look at theism and atheism logically and scientifically and all that, and see what comes out at the end. Thanks so much. And Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you.
What if the most powerful thing you've ever used isn't your phone, isn't money, isn't even your body, but your reason? Because every worldview, atheism, theism, anything rests on one question. Can we actually trust the thoughts in our own head? If you're only matter, if your mind is nothing but atoms colliding, then your beliefs are the result of chemistry and survival, not truth. Natural selection doesn't reward what's true. It rewards what keeps you alive. So here's the problem. If your brain is a blind product of matter and survival, why should you trust it when it claims to know reality? Yet you do trust reason every day. You trust logic. You trust evidence. You trust meaning. And that's the clue. Because if reason is real, if truth is real, then reality may be bigger than matter. Let's examine it.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان